Hello and welcome to the Naked Truth About podcast. I am Danielle Hellebrand, executive coach, keynote speaker and columnist at Better Brains at Work.
And I'm Beverly Wilson Wunsch, professor at the Department of Tourism, Hospitality, Events Management at IU International University in Germany.
And we often talk about the need for real and honest conversations about work and life in a community whose members invite, encourage and inspire each other because people need people. And today we have the opportunity to talk to another very interesting guest. We were so much looking forward to Dr. Florian Besch, who is joining us from Germany.
Hello.
Florian, welcome.
Hello, great to see you and to hear you. I'm very happy to be here. Such an honor to speak to both of you again after such a little bit of time that we didn't see.
Yeah, that's right. And we are also so much looking forward, Florian, because one of the things, we met you in Göttingen and I think there was a click, but you also have such an interesting background. You studied anthropology, Indology, Tibetology at the universities of Göttingen and Heidelberg. And your curiosity and willingness to study is amazing because for the last 15 years you dove, amongst others, into the world of embodiment, Qigong, trauma-informed leadership, meditation, personal development, and so on and so on. We're going to talk about a lot of that later on, but I think we start with a question, Beverly, and our question is, can we do a second podcast with you, Florian? Because we cannot cover all those things in one podcast.
Yes, I'm very happy.
What is your answer to it?
Yes, very happy to do that. Let's see how the first one now goes and where we drive into. I'm really looking forward.
He's on record for that.
Yeah, it's also fascinating. You're also the founder, managing partner and coach at neighbour Training, Coaching and Development in Göttingen in Germany. And last week you and your team won the silver medal, the second prize at the HR Award in Vienna, with one of the amazing tools you use, which is called Mapstel. First of all, congratulations to you and your colleagues.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. That was really a big honor to receive that, and also on behalf of our Netherlands partners, Mapstel, and we were very happy about that. It's a really cool tool, and we really enjoy to work with it. So.
It is, and Beverly, you and we met at your office in Göttingen where we did our Mapstel accreditation. And Florian, that was also the conception of the podcast we are doing now. It all started at your office in Göttingen. So, there is so much to talk about. So I would say, let's just dive in.
That's right. So much connected. It is indeed, Florian. Thank you again. Can you elaborate a bit on your studies and how you apply it in your work, what you do on a daily basis, and essentially what is the common denominator in all the many studies that you have done? I wondered, do you ever stop learning?
I hope we never
Stop
do.
studying?
I mean, this is part of, I think, what we all feel, that the learning is just continuing, and that's part of our lives. So, and the trajectory or the thread that goes through my life is, I think you already mentioned curiosity and the eagerness to learn. But also the biggest, or the second biggest topic is like health, and that is like really since I'm young, since I'm 16, I'm into that. So actually, I wanted to study medicine, which I also did, like for a couple of semesters, and then I changed. So, but this issue of health, and today I'm very much into resilience and stress prevention topics. So this is like going through all my studies and also going through the work I actually do. So Yeah, and first of all, sometimes you don't know what you start. In the moment that I changed from medicine to anthropology, it was just like I want to do something that makes me happy now and not in the future, because I wanted to become a doctor, but I didn't want to study medicine. So I said, okay, anthropology, I really love that topic, and I dived into that. And so only at the end of the studies, I combined it all and went into medical anthropology and combined it with the region I really love, which is the Himalayas. So I somehow finished then my master's and later on my PhD on Tibetan medicine in the northwestern Indian Himalayas. And yeah, and this is how like health came back into my life again and again. And so working also later on spiritual healers in Germany, like doing a research here. And but at some point I felt like I really want to work with people. I really want to help people and be involved in their process of development. And that's why I changed from the ivory tower of science, which is sometimes like that. So and went to back to Göttingen and to my or started my work. And again, I brought up there like my, as you said, the qigong and the martial arts I did, and the aspects of health in that. And that's how I started my personal journey and becoming a coach and working with people here. So that's kind of the trajectory through the years of university and later on starting to work with naval.
Yeah, interesting, Florian. And I think there is a lot of ancestral wisdom of, amongst other, the indigenous people. I lived some time in the South of America, and people who lived in nature, observed and connected directly with the ecological systems every day. In everything they do, they try to see the relationship between people and nature, and they look for the thread that connects the world than rather than separates it. I mean, everything is connected to everything. And Florian, what are the things you can share with us from all your studies that we can apply in the now? So some ancient wisdom that can help us move forward in a generative or regenerative way. Maybe that will help us remember things that we didn't know we had forgotten, our deep wisdom within us, and from other cultures.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes ancient wisdom it sounds so mysterious and mystical, and in a way it is, but in another way, I mean, you started already speaking on the, I think one of the most important points, that is the interconnectedness of us all with nature, with people. And the time that I lived 2 winters in the Himalayas for doing my researches, and their life becomes very slow. And that's the way also as an anthropologist how I dived into the culture in like really participating, living with the people. And sometimes things happen that in a way that you don't recognize it at the first moment. But then suddenly you realize, okay, this culture of understanding the world as being interconnected, and that there is no difference between you and me and between someone. And actually, it became really clear to me in a moment when I stand together with a couple of men in the very morning. We were drinking tea. It was winter time. And suddenly someone came and reported the death of a man a few hundred kilometers away. And most of us didn't know him, but like everyone felt immediately this connectedness, like to his wife, which we knew all, and to this man. So it had an impact on us, and we were like living in that. And that moment I realized, oh, suddenly I'm thinking different, or I feel different than at home in Germany. And I think this is something that needs a little bit slowliness. And I think it's a really important point for our lives. And also the understanding and the feeling of interconnectedness. Because I think our life seems to be so fast here. You know, we think we have to do everything all the time very, very fast, and we have to accomplish things every day. So I think, in my understanding, we overthink, we overlook that there is an interconnectedness. So if we look at the three of us now here, like we see each other on the screen, but we also hear each other. We are actually a few hundred kilometers away from each other. However, somehow there is a resonance between us, you know. And I think this is so beautiful, because it's not only that we've met once, you know, some months back, but it's we see each other and we feel each other, and there is a resonance coming up. And I feel, if I understand that we are in resonance, that means you are in me. And if we speak of, I know, Danielle, that's your topic. If we think about neurobiology, you know, you are in my brain now, like, because I see you, you know, so you are part of me already. I cannot do anything about it. So we are interconnected. And I think this is also the beautiful thing about the internet today. It makes it much more clear that distance is not the problem. So we can be interconnected. And I think it's so valuable to be aware of this interconnectedness. And I think in these traditional cultures, and also in the ancient wisdom, this was set. You know, there was no doubt about it. And everyone would live in that feeling of. And I think if we would make us a little bit more aware of that, that could help. I mean, you know, it's very obvious that would change a lot.
Yes.
True enough, indeed.
Yeah, it just comes into my mind, you know. I mean, thinking about, if we think, for instance, about the wars right now, like in Germany, you know, people were so emotionally affected of the starting war in the Ukraine, because not only because it's closer and it's Europe, but also there is a strong connection to this region. So, however, I asked myself in that moment, like, how does it come that we're not connected so much to the wars that happen throughout the last centuries and decades in all the other parts of the world, in Africa,
Yeah.
in Syria, you know, like, it doesn't, like, we don't feel it so much. And this is, I think it's a part of that. It really needs to become close, so that we get a feeling of the interconnectedness. And that's what made it clear to me again. And I would really love that we become, and the internet is one chance to do that, that we become more clear in that we feel each other. It doesn't matter where we are in the world. And that belongs to nature as well, and the animals, and so on and so on, and the climate.
It's interesting, Florian, because you touched on culture. As you know, I'm from Jamaica. And just that example that you gave of this gentleman passing away, and how you all just sort of came together and encircled this woman that was a part of your community, and you just felt as though that you were experiencing what she was experiencing. I think that's sort of my upbringing. Where in Jamaica, we live for each other. Life is a family, it's a community, and we sort of always feel that everybody in the community is a member of the family, whichever you. Although you might have different names and you grew up in a different household, but the community is really the community. And as you know, as we speak here on this podcast, we're talking to people from all different walks of life around the world. And I wondered whether or not you can specify some things about your personal community. I mean, coming from Germany, your upbringing, your own cultural background, and so on. Is there anything essentially we can learn from? Because sometimes I, as an onlooker, I say, well, I just like to be a little bit like that. But then I listen to you, and you're here saying, no, I'd like to be a little bit like that. Where is the common ground here? Because I think that, you know,
Oh, that's a really nice question. I think I've never been asked it in this beautiful way. Thank you, Beverly. It's because, usually if you look at your own culture, I don't know if it's specifically German, but when we look at our own culture, we are very, very pessimistic, or let's say we are very critical about our own culture. And staying for such a long time in India, I really got to know my own culture much better. And there is really some things I really appreciate, even if they're critical at some point. So what
that's
comes into
right.
my
That's
mind
right.
first is discipline. I think
Yeah.
the discipline we have is really, I mean, it helps us a lot in
Yes.
everyday life
Yes.
because we are
Yes. Yes.
straight to the point somehow. On the
Yes.
other
Yes.
hand, if it gets too much, it's a big problem because we could, like, what Germans could learn much more is the easiness and the dancing of Jamaica,
I know. I
the
know.
fun thing in
Life's a
things. Yes,
beach,
right.
no problem, man.
Exactly. And we
Hmm.
so there's always, in my opinion, there is always two sides of a medal. If we have something, some beautiful aspects, I mean, also being very analytical in a way, like very structured, all these aspects are, I really enjoy them in my life. However, because I think in my specific person, they are quite big already. So what I had to learn more is to be more flexible, to be more easy, to be more loving, all these kinds of parts. Because I am, by how I was raised, I am already very structured. So that's nothing I have to, like, develop more and more. It's enough what I have of that. Do you know what? But when you were asking the question, what was really, like, what came into my mind was really funny or interesting. I really loved that moment because I met a young man. He was younger than me that time in India. He was raised in a bigger city in India, but he was living up in the Himalayas doing an NGO project. And 2 years later, he came to Germany with a GTZ, with a German development company. And so he asked me, Florian, can I come? And I said, yeah, sure, come to my house, live in my house, you can stay here for some days. And he came, and I was so surprised because I thought, to this young man from India, I feel more close and more connected to my actual neighbors here in my little
Wow.
village because he speaks my language. He has my understanding of the climate, of the nature, of how we should live together. He was so easy. I was living in a flat with 8 people that time. So he just joined in, and it was as if he was raised there. But he has never been out of India until that few weeks before. So, and that was so beautiful. So if we speak about community, I have also always the idea of, we can be connected to people all over the world right now. And we can feel brotherhood to people all over the world. It doesn't matter what culture they come from. And
That's
sometimes
right.
I'm more distant to my actual neighbors because they're like conservative people living here in some village somewhere, than to someone who's coming from wherever in the world. So that's also quite some really interesting. That's why I also love international communities,
Yeah.
that share a common ground in something, that share a common interest. And I really love these communities that work that way. And we have the options today.
Which hearing you speak, which makes me think, Florian, Beverly and I, as you know, we like to talk to a lot of people and talk the naked truth. And we do that. We speak to a lot of people. And sometimes for me, it feels as if we are living in kind of two different realities. If we speak to people from our own community worldwide, or for me, with business leaders one on one, people are aware that if we go further the way we do now, that we are hitting a wall, climate change, etc., etc., that things are going to collapse. People are aware of that. But if we look at our behavior, the way we do run society at large, the way we run our businesses, it's still kind of more of the same. So there seems to be a big knowing and doing gap. People seem to be aware that transformational change is necessary. So to me, there is not enough knowledge or capacity on the how to do it. So, what can we do as an individual, as a team, and as an organization, as a larger system? What can we do more? Because these larger structures that we need to support such a transformational change seems to be not yet really developed, because somehow I feel we are not just in an era of change, but it's a whole change of era. So, Florian, what do you think can we do to talk and do and feel more with all the other fellow travelers on this necessary journey, so we can join forces with other change makers, so that we together can build more on a transformative infrastructure?
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. You're pointing to like the aspects of personal transformation, like how
Yeah.
can we as individual person transform so that society, or let's say communities first, and then society transforms as well. And
That's right. That's right.
like where I would really, if I really like cut it down very much and think of what is for me the most important ability for change and also for transformation, then I would say it's listening. And
Ah.
yeah, for like it comes already from what I said before, but and you know, you said already I'm into meditation, but what I'm thinking or what I'm speaking of is what some people call it deep listening. So one thing is that the three of us now listen to each other, and I think we listen quite carefully, which is beautiful already. But what we often lack is that we are not taking the time to listen to ourselves first. You know, that means we need really to slow down and really to understand and feel what's happening in me when I listen to that first before I listen to you. No, you know, a normal conversation runs in the way that, you know, I say something and you say yes, 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 or you say no, 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 I'm not. That's a different opinion. You know, so we immediately when we speak to each other, we respond to it. You know, we give a reaction. But interesting is like when we first slow down and like hold, like in a way hold back what we want instantly do, but just like we slow down and listen to what is happening in me. For instance, when I listen to you, or what is happening in me when I listen to no one, when I sit in meditation and do nothing, nothing, in a way, nothing, you know? So,
Right.
so, and I think the ability to listen would really change a lot because we would come closer to the real feelings. For instance, when I come back to what we were speaking already about, like if I want to connect to someone, listening is the first thing we should do. I mean, you know, like if I want this interconnectedness, it's so important that I can understand myself, that I can feel myself, and out of that point of view, feel you. Yeah, hear you. Like, okay, that's what you're telling me. That's what you want to show me. Okay. Before I judge it, before I whatever want to say about it, you know. But and I think if we take us spaces and create spaces in which we can really listen, that would really change a lot because that would make us connect to ourselves and then also connect to you.
Beautiful, Florian. Mhm.
And that would, for me, that would be the big, really a big shift, you know.
And you know, from a neurobiological point of view, we kind of have those two antenna, one intrapersonal, what's going on inside of me, and one interpersonal, what is going on between you and me. And I mean, antenna are wired to pick up signals, but we need some moments of quietness to listen to what the antenna picked up inside of me and what the antenna picked up from the things that's going on between us. And you're so right, being sensitive to the signals on both antenna. That is so
Yeah.
important.
And
Yeah,
you're
love
pointing
that,
again
love that.
to we were speaking already about resonance. And I think, I don't know if it has, in German, the word Resonanz, and in English, I think, for me, it's the same. I don't know if it's for an English speaker the same, but the word resonance already points to the swinging of the atmosphere, of the energy in between us, and of the energy and the swinging in between me. And so we are quite often referring to Hartmut Rosa, who the professor who brought this in Germany, who says that this is like kind of the key point in how life can succeed, how we can live properly and nicely, is that we go into resonance. And I think like to feel and to understand the swinging between you and me and between myself, this is for me beforehand. I need to listen. I need to calm down a little bit. That's important for me at that point.
It's interesting because you were talking about personal transformation, and somehow my sense is that in order to transform, there needs to be a certain sense of spirituality. Whatever you conceive spirituality to be it God or Allah, whoever you might call, but there needs to be a super, a super, a higher being. I would rather call it that. And so I wondered whether or not, because essentially, I think there needs to be a bit of a connection in terms of our spiritual life. I think we can grow emotionally, we grow physically, we know what to do to grow and keep healthy. But also, I think what we do not really seriously focus on is our own spirituality. And I wondered whether or not you feel that we are evolving as a human being spiritually. Is it something that we're afraid of simply because we don't understand it? Or is it because you feel that we would probably say once bitten, twice shy, many of us, because of the religion that we actually have bought into? We have had negative experiences. If you connect negatively or positively, I don't know really how to say it here, but somehow I feel change also comes through a certain sense of flow, a certain connect to a higher being that helps us to change in the process. Well, at least that has been my experience. That whenever I connect to something higher than who I am, I change. And it happens on a daily basis, it happens on a very personal basis. And I wondered whether or not you had any thoughts on that. Do we need any spiritual, let's say, connection in order to change? Or can we all do without it? I don't know if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is always interesting because I mean, also the word spiritual is, that like some people really oppose it very strongly, and for my personal life, I have no
Yeah.
problems. I would call myself a spiritual person, but however, what I experienced also is, as a first answer to your question, what I experienced also, there are people, and I really honor them, friends and colleagues of mine who are not spiritual at all in their
Right.
understanding, and they have no connection to a higher being as such. But what I think, and we're coming back to interconnectedness, if you feel relationship and
Hmm.
interconnectedness to a common ground, a bigger community or a bigger picture, if you feel that, that can already bring in all the aspects that we were speaking about before. So
Hmm.
in my experience, I have some discussions with my colleague Daniel about it, and he, what I always say, there are so many people that meditate for years, and they're no better person than anyone else, they are doing the same bullshit than anyone else, so there's no better coming out of being spiritual or doing meditation or whatever. And even without, you can lead a very, or you can live a very aware and a very aware life. You can be very clear about what's going on in your life, and you can be very reflective on everything. So I really appreciate this. And so I don't know. I think what is important is the connectedness, or the idea of there is a higher, or there is a bigger picture, and I'm part of this. Because if I think I'm not part of this, and I'm living my own life, then come in very, very big problems. And that's what we see in economics today, because everyone thinks of himself and tries to have the biggest benefit.
Exactly.
And that's why we are not, because in this system, we don't see the bigger picture of the planet as such. And this starts actually, if I don't feel my neighbor, if I don't feel my wife, if I don't feel my kids, if I don't feel my friends, then I'm already not connected anymore. And so I think that's where we need to start. Feel us and feel the next one. That's just to us. So, and then we will can see the bigger picture. So that's part of my answer. And the other thing is, for my personal life, maybe to be honest about that, I did a long journey, starting from being in a Protestant church as a young boy, working very, very intensely there for years. So I was very much into Christian ideas and thoughts, but I was never related. I was never I had never problems with religion. I knew all the bad things that come out of religion, and I know it. And, and all the problems that come out of the church. However, it was the first space for me to develop, because there were people around me that helped me to become, to grow, to become a young adult. So. And then I went through, when coming to India, I was very involved into Buddhism for a long time, and different aspects of Buddhism and different traditions within the Buddhist idea. And today I'm back into more a universal understanding of, so that maybe it's the word spirituality at that point, but.
Right. So until we can find a better word, let's say a word that is a little bit more inclusive, I would say, because as you know, people tend to be a little bit afraid of those terms, and so they tend to shy away from it.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you the question also too of some of your experiences, and perhaps it's to name one very eye-opening experience that you have had, and also something that you think everyone perhaps should experience in order for that person to grow and to become and to self-actualize and to, let's say, change and to continue to become a successful person.
Oh, I don't know if it's success, but what comes instantly into my mind is really interesting. I didn't think of it before. I'm really a little bit okay. That's fun. I was working, or not working. I was in a group in a longer process. So it was a big group, and we always went into triads. So 3 of us sitting together, working for half an hour on a topic of like self-development and all that. And so there was a new question coming up, and I looked around, and 2 people came to me and said, like, do we want to share this? And I said, yes. And one of them was a woman, and she had this face, an older German, and so it's funny because it comes together with all the other aspects we were speaking about. There was this German woman coming, older, and she had this serious face with a Mundwinkel down. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the English word for
I don't
that.
know as well. How do you say that? We have to catch it up. So there was this. It's this serious, and it has this impression of the world is bad, And she came, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be complicated now, So I was reluctant and holding back. And so we sat down, and she started speaking, and what she did was she started speaking from her heart. And 10 seconds later, I looked at her and I thought, I love you. Oh, you're so beautiful. You're so nice. You're such a nice person. And I really, from my deep feeling, from my heart, I thought like, your soul is really beautiful.
Wow.
And I think, having this experience, this is transformation within seconds. You cannot do it. You cannot like make it or something. It was just like the openness. I could witness myself being reluctant and like, I don't really want her, And within seconds, she, like, in the way she was, I could open up myself and I saw how beautiful she was. And
Wonderful.
I think if we would give us the chance of more often meeting people we don't know, or we have a negative first impression, and really listening to what they might tell us or where they speak from, this could really change a lot, because then I don't have to, work, or I don't have to think about all the first impressions I have there.
That's
I
right.
just, after that, I was so happy afterwards, because I thought that's wonderful,
Yeah.
And I think that could be a really thinking about all the moments in life that happen to every one of us. That happens to me every day, where we see someone, we meet someone, and we have like different ideas coming up, positive or negative, like, oh no, I don't like him, I don't like her, and thinking of all these situations, and if we could change that, like, that would be that would have an impact, I think.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
And
again, it needs time, no?
yeah, yeah, of course it needs time.
Of course,
And
of
the
course.
interesting thing about conversation like this, the four of us who are here, our producers, Stefan, you, Florian, Beverly, and I, we're all parents. And I often think, what can I do as a parent, do more, to contribute to the generations to come, to work on the path forward. That's the thing that's always on my mind. And Florian, one last question. If you could change one cultural norm in general or in organizations, what wish would you have? What would it be? For me, to give a start, I would, if I had a magic wand, I want us all to hold more space for each other and being aware of that interconnectedness and really take the time to hold space for each other. That is one wish I'd have.
Beautiful.
What about you?
I could sign that already. It's really beautiful, Daniel. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've been speaking about this now quite often already in this talk. So maybe let's connect to the listening. Let's connect. What I learned in anthropology is this curiosity and naivety, like being naive in the way I approach the world, in the way of not taking myself up and making myself so important in what I know, but rather knowing that the world out there and whoever I meet has this richness and this extreme knowledge, and we might speak about this next, and all this ancestral lineage behind everyone. There is all this knowledge coming out down. There is a thing of demut, the humbleness and naivety of approaching or meeting you in
Yes.
really
Yes.
wanting to get to know what you have to tell me, or what
That's
our
right.
meeting is about, or what this moment is about. And that's the listening moment, like, and I'd really love if we could also, if we speak about the children, if we could bring this to our children and let them understand that's not about shininess and about being number one and being the first Insta man, but like with a naivety and curiosity about wanting to learn. And now we are back at the very first moment, Beverly. We were like speaking about we want to learn, and
That's
I want to learn
right.
from you. So I want to meet you. I want to learn from you.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, and
Yes.
it's
And being
beautiful.
humble to
Yeah,
learn.
yeah,
The humility that is necessary in order to learn, I think.
exactly.
It's just not, yeah, wonderful.
And we are going to learn a lot more from you and about you, Florian, because you said there will be a part two.
Part two is in.
And we are looking. We are like the Eagles,
Yes.
Florian, Hotel California. You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. So there
Yeah.
will be a
Yeah. Yeah.
part two,
Yes.
and we are
Yes.
already looking forward to that. So thank you so much, Florian, for being here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, both of you. It was such beautiful questions, and your questions leading us into this beautiful conversation, and like really like being in resonance. So that was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we invite you all to join us as we explore our own and other people's life and work stories. We will talk to a variety of people with all kind of backgrounds, and we have lots of knowledge to share. So let us learn out loud together and explore how we can better interact with each other in our private lives and in our work life. Let's keep on nurturing our souls. Thank you all for listening. Have a good week and be kind. The world needs a hospitality mindset.
And that is the naked truth. Thank you.